Advanced Physiology for third semester medical students. Respiratory System Physiology. The respiratory system is responsible for providing oxygen to the body and removing carbon dioxide, a waste product of cellular metabolism, from the body. This process involves several key stages. From external respiration, gas exchange between air and blood, to oxygen distribution to body tissues and respiratory regulation. The respiratory system consists of several main components, including the airways, lungs, and supporting structures. Airways. The airways are divided into two main parts, the upper and lower airways. A. Upper airways, nose and nasal cavity. These are the main entry points for air, which is filtered, warmed, and humidified by the nasal mucosa before entering the lungs. The nose also helps reduce harmful particles and microorganisms. Pharynx, the passage that connects the nasal cavity to the larynx and trachea. Larynx functions as an airway and produces sound through the vocal cords. The larynx is where sound is generated. Connection to respiratory physiology. The main function of the upper airways is to warm, humidify, and filter the air, as well as to help prevent foreign particles from reaching the deeper lungs. B. Lower airways, trachea. The passage that carries air from the larynx to the bronchi. It is equipped with cartilage rings that help keep the trachea open. Bronchi and bronchioles. The main bronchi, right and left, branch into smaller bronchi and eventually into bronchioles, which lead to the alveoli. Alveolus. Microscopic air sac structures that are crucial in the gas exchange process. In the alveoli, oxygen is transferred to the blood, and carbon dioxide is expelled from the blood to be removed from the body. Connection to respiratory physiology. The lower airways, especially the alveoli, are the primary sites for gas exchange between oxygen and carbon dioxide. Lungs. The lungs are the main organs involved in the breathing process. Each lung is divided into several lobes, 3 in the right lung and 2 in the left lung, and consists of many alveoli where gas exchange occurs. A. Pulmonary ventilation. Ventilation is the process of moving air in and out of the lungs. This is influenced by the contraction of respiratory muscles, especially the diaphragm and intercostal muscles. Inspiration, inhalation, the process of drawing air into the lungs. The diaphragm contracts and moves down, increasing the volume of the thoracic cavity, while the external intercostal muscles lift the ribs. This decreases the air pressure in the lungs, allowing air to enter. Expiration, exhalation, the process of expelling air from the lungs. During normal expiration, the diaphragm and intercostal muscles relax, causing the volume of the thoracic cavity to decrease and air to be pushed out. During forced expiration, Abdominal and internal intercostal muscles contract to push air out more rapidly. Connection to respiratory physiology. Ventilation ensures that oxygen-rich air enters the lungs and carbon dioxide is expelled from the body. This process depends on the movement of respiratory muscles that alter the volume of the thoracic cavity and pressure within the lungs. Gas exchange in the lungs. Gas exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide takes place in the alveoli and the surrounding capillaries. The alveoli are surrounded by blood capillaries where gas exchange occurs through diffusion. A. Gas diffusion. Oxygen diffusion. Oxygen in the air entering the alveoli diffuses into the blood in the capillaries due to the concentration gradient between the air, rich in oxygen, and the blood, which contains more carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide diffusion. Carbon dioxide in the blood diffuses into the alveoli to be expelled from the body when exhaled. Fick's law explains that the rate of gas diffusion is proportional to the surface area, concentration gradient, and the thickness of the membrane, alveolar capillary membrane. Connection to respiratory physiology. The gas diffusion process is highly dependent on the partial pressure gradients of gases, which allow oxygen to enter the blood and carbon dioxide to leave the blood. Gas transport in the blood. Once oxygen enters the blood, it is transported throughout the body by red blood cells, erythrocytes. Carbon dioxide, on the other hand, is transported back to the lungs for removal. A. Oxygen transport. Most oxygen in the blood is carried by hemoglobin in red blood cells. Hemoglobin binds to oxygen in the lungs and releases it to the body tissues according to need. Oxygen can also dissolve slightly in blood plasma, but most of its transport depends on hemoglobin. B. Carbon dioxide transport. Carbon dioxide is transported in the blood in three forms: as bicarbonate, hydrogen carbonate. The majority of carbon dioxide binds with water inside red blood cells to form carbonic acid, which then dissociates into bicarbonate ions and hydrogen ions. Bound to hemoglobin, carbomonohemoglobin. A small portion of carbon dioxide binds directly to hemoglobin, but at a different site from oxygen. Dissolved in plasma. A small amount of carbon dioxide also dissolves in plasma. Connection to respiratory physiology. Hemoglobin is essential in transporting both oxygen and carbon dioxide, allowing oxygen distribution to body tissues and carbon dioxide collection to be exhaled. Respiratory regulation. Breathing is controlled by the respiratory centers in the medulla oblongata and pons in the brain. These centers receive information from the body and regulate the rate and depth of breathing to maintain blood gas homeostasis. A. Sensitivity to carbon dioxide. Chemical sensors in the medulla oblongata detect increased carbon dioxide levels in the blood, hypercapnia. When carbon dioxide rises, the respiratory centers respond by increasing the breathing rate to expel carbon dioxide more quickly. B. Sensitivity to oxygen. In hypoxic conditions, low oxygen levels in the blood. Chemical sensors in the aorta and carotid send signals to the respiratory centers to increase breathing. C. Regulation by the autonomic nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system can increase the breathing rate when the body needs more oxygen, e.g., during stress or physical activity. The parasympathetic system reduces the breathing rate when the body is at rest. Connection to respiratory physiology. Respiratory regulation by the nervous system ensures that the body maintains gas balance in the blood and adjusts breathing according to the body's oxygen and carbon dioxide needs. Conclusion. The physiology of the respiratory system involves external respiration, gas exchange between air and blood in the alveoli, gas transport, oxygen and carbon dioxide in the blood, and the regulation of breathing by brain centers. These processes work together to ensure the body receives adequate oxygen and expels carbon dioxide, which is crucial for maintaining acid-base balance and healthy cellular metabolism.